I've written about and discussed the topic for many years of, is a computer going to take your job? And the answer has always been, maybe, it depends what you do. Some jobs, probably, some jobs, not so much. But I think there's an interesting conversation to have now that everyone's talking about ChatGPT and AI and what kind of tasks and jobs and work this type of computer program can do. And realistically, it's a lot. It's an exciting breakthrough for a lot of reasons, but it's also a concerning breakthrough for a lot of people because it probably will replace a lot of jobs. It's not the only computer program that's going to replace or automate all sorts of types of work, but it is an interesting one, and it has the potential to make a lot of jobs, a lot of work, a lot of tasks a lot easier, and a lot easier for people who have not necessarily benefited from programming or computer programs in the past or in the same way, because one of the interesting things about ChatGPT and these other kind of chat search engines that are coming online and being developed, and we're now seeing what they look like and how they can be used, is they use natural language. So it's always been possible to automate tasks if you know a computer programming language. And there's all sorts of different programming languages for different purposes, but to talk to a computer, you have to learn that computer's language, or a language that makes it possible to give commands to that computer. Whereas with ChatGPT, you can talk to an artificial intelligence, and whether or not we should call it that is a different debate, but you can talk to a language model and give it instructions and have actual conversations. But the amazing thing about this is you can have a conversation with a computer program. It's not a real conversation because it's just a mathematical model giving you responses based on input and output, but a conversation with natural language, and get that output in natural language. So you don't have to input a computer code, you don't have to learn a computer programming language to talk to this computer program. You can talk back and forth, give it instructions, ask for information, and ask for deeper, more complex information and what's going on behind the scenes without knowing that computer's code. So you can ask for really complex information and ask the model to refine its results. So you can say, okay, can you give me the top 10 most cited papers in this area? And you could say, oh no, I don't like this author, get rid of those. Look for ones with these categories or with these keywords. And it's not perfect, it makes mistakes, there's some problems with it, but you can get information and create computer queries without knowing any querying language. Because that opens up a whole new realm of automation for people who don't know code. Right? So you can get this to help you write emails, you get it to help you find information, you can look at what's behind that information. The interesting thing that I've noticed about ChatGPT, really easy to get it to cite its sources. So if it gives you some information, which is not always accurate, you can say, where did you get this information? And then you can really easily trace down the paper, the citation, the reference, the source of what it's referencing, because it can tell you that. And if you ask it, where is this information from? It will tell you. Now there's all sorts of information about its programming, about its code, about its rules that it won't tell you, but if you're looking for information and using this as a search and information finding tool, it can potentially be really useful. Now, the interesting thing and limitation about it being a natural language model is it's very prone to fibbing and lies and making things up. So it's doing a similar thing to your phone's predictive text, right? Guessing the next word based on the previous word. It's a much more advanced model than that. It has a huge database of information to draw from, but it's predicting the next word in a sentence based on how language is normally constructed, based on its database of information. So it's a really advanced version of predictive text, but using really complex algorithms from a huge amount of data to do that. But the interesting thing about that is it's not necessarily a good source of truth. It's not necessarily good at fact-checking itself, because it's creating predictive models of language based on what language fits, not necessarily what language is true, accurate, or a valid response or result. So you have to really be aware of that, is it's a very good fibber, because it's not necessarily trying to fib or trying to mislead, but it's trying to create the most accurate language, or based on the way people speak, instead of trying to put together the most accurate information based on what the facts are. So it's not necessarily a good judge of evidence of veracity or truth. It's a good model of creating language that is reasonably intelligible to people. So that's an interesting one to know, and it's really important to understand about language models like ChatGPT, is that it's not necessarily accurate. It's not a good evaluator of information, and it'll tell you that if you ask it. So you can't necessarily trust everything that's coming out of it, but what you can do is look at where it's getting its information from and then be a judge of that. So don't necessarily trust everything it's saying, but if you're using it to find information, make sure you're looking at checking the sources like you would do with, any other piece of research. Make sure you're trusting where the information is coming from, not just the information that's being presented to you, like hopefully you would with any other really important information, especially technical, scientific, research, academic information. So that's probably the most profound impact it's going to have, is opening up access to computer programs, to computer models, to automation from people who don't speak programming languages, who aren't traditionally good at talking to computers, can now talk to an advanced language model that is really good at finding, collating, summarizing, and reproducing different information. Now, there's a whole other set of videos on the cautions and the concerns, but there's really exciting opportunities there, and it's going to make a huge and profound impact on a lot of people's work.